This is Cameron Herrin. He's currently going viral on TikTok right now. Even though he took out a whole family, people want him to be free and are saying he's too cute to go inside and that he didn't mean what he'd done. Let's get into the case and I'll let you guys decide. So Cameron was into his cars and particularly into street racing. On the 23rd of May 2018, he got into a race with one of his friends in his Ford Mustang. He was even hitting speeds of 100 miles an hour on this day, getting into a race with his friend. But unfortunately, as they approached a certain street, a lady and her daughter were crossing the road. His friend he was racing swerved out the way as they approached the intersection, but he swerved right into Jessica and her daughter. Despite managing to slow down from 100 miles an hour to 40, he hit them both and they lost their life at the scene. On the news after as well, images of the buggy which young girl was pushed in were posted up. A very, very horrible incident. The man in this photo on that day had his family taken away from him due to Cameron's speeding and his selfishness.
Because of your existence, two beautiful, innocent lives were denied a full life.
I always pray for the Reisinger and Raubenolt families because your pain must be unconscionable.
2 lives taken. Was it on purpose? No, but what's justice for this situation of a young girl not even getting to fulfill any life, just 1 year old, and her partner happened to live by himself? He didn't mean it, but what should be the punishment for him taking and ruining his family? Cameron also was just a young kid out of Florida. He was just 18 years old himself at the time of this incident and had just turned and got that car for his birthday that was involved in this incident. Of course, speeding, this kid was trying to enjoy himself, but cars can be dangerous. People don't realize that, and parents have got to get into the mind that you got to have some self-control. Going 100 miles an hour, him even having a car like that at that age to go that quick can be very, very fatal, and obviously this time it was. And this is his mother's response to the situation, who bought him that car for his birthday.
I received a frantic, distressed call from Cameron, and he told me he had been involved in an accident. And it was clear to me that he was crying, and I kept him on the phone until I could get to the scene, helping him work his way through it. I said, you know, it's going to be okay. I promise you, I'm on my way. And we talked that time, and it took me less than 5 minutes to get to and he said, Mom, I said, no, Cameron, it's just, at that point, it wasn't even clear to me how the accident what had taken place. I said, no, Cameron, no, you're mistaken. It's going to be okay. Tristan and Cameron and Jon Wayne, you know, in that middle part, the median part of Bayshore. And Tristan was sitting against a tree, crying. Jon Wayne was sitting on the curb with his head in his hands, crying. And Cameron was on his hands and knees, throwing up and crying.
His mother's trying to put towards the court that he had remorse for the situation so deeply that he was throwing up to go in his favour for when justice is served in the sentencing.
I feel responsible for this accident, and I accept full accountability for my actions. If I could, I would step in front of Cameron and I would accept the punishment that you might render. That's how strong I feel about my involvement or my actions that led to this accident, perhaps.
The only involvement she's had is obviously getting her son that highly powerful car, but of course she didn't know what would happen. She didn't know he would drive irresponsibly. She's just taking a rap for her son because she loves him so much.
When Cameron and Tristan were finally released from jail after the accident, their father, Chris, had to sleep upstairs in the spare bedroom because they were so distraught. This went on for several weeks, and I can only describe it as like a PTSD, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not trying to diagnose, but I mean, what I saw was both of them were so impacted and affected by this accident. They saw and continue to see the accident play over and over and over in their heads, and I would hear screams at night from either of the boys as they were having these nightmares. They had anxiety attacks. And panic attacks. This past almost 3 years has been the hardest thing I've ever gone through, and the hardest thing our family, the four of us, have had to go through. I'm sorry. Yes, if you have some. Thank you, sir.
1.8 billion views is what he picked up on TikTok during his court case of people saying he shouldn't be sentenced harshly for the situation. Then sentencing day would come.
Sorry, it took me a little bit longer than anticipated, but there was a lot of information to consider. Let me just start by saying that as multiple people have observed, this is a particularly difficult case because there's really nothing that the court can do that's capable of fixing the harm that has been caused to the victims in this case. So that being said,
the reason it's a hard sentence to come up with mainly because he took out a family, but he didn't have harsh intentions, but it's harsh circumstances. You can't explain that to the victim's family that he didn't mean it because they're no longer here, and he is, and it was his actions that caused the whole situation.
The harm that's been caused prevent me from putting this as a bottom of the guidelines minimum case. But the departure bases argued by the defendant did provide some reason not to put it at the top of the maximum. And specifically, the court did take into account that the defendant's 18, certainly responsible for his actions, and he's being held accountable for his actions. But the age of 18, the court finds, is a mitigating factor and shouldn't put this at a maximum. Also, the complete lack of prior criminal history is something that the court considered.
The factors that reduce his sentence are exactly what you thought. He's 18, like the judge said he's responsible, still he's just turned an adult and got involved in a situation. Also, he's had no previous situations which helped him out a bit, but at the end of the day it's still a serious charge, and the middle is going to be a high sentence.
So, having said all that, the court is going really toward the middle between the minimum under the guidelines and the maximum punishment permitted under Florida state law. So on count one, vehicular homicide, the court's going to adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 9 years in the Florida State Prison. On count two, same charge, court will adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 15 years Florida State Prison, and that'll run consecutive to count one, for a total of 24 years Florida State Prison. Count three is a misdemeanor, unlawful racing on a highway, so the court will adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to time served. Give credit for time served, I believe, 2 days. Court will impose mandatory court costs. Mr. Herrin, you have given up the right to appeal the determination of your guilt or innocence. You do have 30 days to appeal the sentence of the court.
He got over 20 years inside, and this is where the TikTok craze started, saying he didn't deserve that much time. Let's get a discussion going in the comments right now. Comment below what you guys think. Did he deserve over 20 years, 24 years inside for what happened. Subscribe to the channel with notification bell if you're new. Got a lot more content like this coming real soon.